Welcome back to another edition of the GB ETCS Reference Design series. And before we actually get to look at a topic in detail, I think it's worth just looking at how the topics are structured so that you'll get the best advantage if you decide to read them. And talking of wanting to read them, where do you find them? Well, they're all available on that wonderful thing called the internet. On the Network Rail website, you'll find that there is a directory which lists all of the reference design and requirement suite and a number of other documents relevant to implementing ETCS. And if you look on that page and scroll down towards the bottom, you'll find that it does list a series of baseline four documents. And the second of those is entitled System Requirement Suite Documents. If you click on that one, you'll get a sub menu. And in that, you'll see there is a folder of reference design topics. Clicking on that will get you the list of the reference design topics, which you can download, read, or do what you wish with. So let's have a look at the structure of a topic. And each topic is addressing an event or scenario which is likely to happen. And that's going to happen many times, either in the life of the project or in the journey of a train. It's not strictly true that every topic has multiple events and scenarios in the same way. Some of them are a little bit of a catch-all for other information. But there may be different ways in which a topic can be implemented, so different options that can be considered, and within options there can be variations as well, and they can be related to technical or operational issues and solutions. So each topic, once you get down into the detail, addresses an event and it looks at what you should do in a logical manner, hopefully. Then would say they are not perfect, and the work I'm doing at the moment means that I'm going back and looking at them and going, perhaps we didn't describe things as well as we should have done, or perhaps there are contradictions between the different topic documents. And it's only as you start to apply a set of requirements that you discover whether they are good, complete, and effective. And when they become mature, it's at that point that you can adopt them for standards and other uses. So each topic has a heading page. It's got reference numbers. It's got a description. For instance, here, topic A is all around continuing movement, and it's about giving a train that has a movement authority an updated movement authority to continue the journey, and also how you issue that first movement authority to train which is proceeding in staff responsible. This would typically follow on from topic G, which is starting a start of mission topic, and it could lead on to an end of mission topic. The introduction section could also be known as a problem statement. It is trying to describe what the topic is all about. It looks at either a train that has started in ETCS with start of mission, or it has entered the ETCS area through a level transition. And it will lead on to a train ending a mission, or perhaps transitioning out of the ETCS area. So there are a number of options to be considered. And the introduction basically describes what the topic is all about and what one is trying to achieve. And it continues on with some information about other topics that may be of relevance. Now, to help the user decide which option or variant to apply, some of the topics include a flowchart, and that can help make decisions about which one is appropriate in each circumstance, particularly if a topic doesn't cover all the options. As you can see here, there is a flowchart concluded, and it includes some goals to assist the user in understanding what the purpose is of the flowchart and where it leads. We now move on to each of the individual options with a high-level description of them. And here it is about helping again the user to select the appropriate option for an appropriate scenario. Some of the options are just features which it is expected the RBC will implement every time it is needed, and it's not configured significantly on location. Other times it could be that there is something which is very location specific and needs considerable configuration. Topic A1 is about sending a new movement authority to the train or updating the movement authority at the moment that the route ahead is set and proven, and that is in accordance with topic U. This is often known as the push process. The alternative process, which is described in option A2, is when the train makes a request for a new movement authority because it has reached the perturbation location on the approach to the end of the current movement authority. Now, sometimes there will be more than one way of actually achieving an option, or there may be some specific use cases that need to be described. So within an option, there can be also variants. So one can have a third layer of descriptions. So we now move to a section which is regarding one of the options or variants. And this one is again A1. And the first thing is it tells us that depending on the technology choice of the supplier, either you would use option A1 or option A2, and that would apply throughout the area that the RBC supervises. Within the description, we begin to have some statements of intent. In this case, the last paragraph is that the RBC will automatically send the movement authority when it becomes available, and it will send that MA update as soon as the conditions are met. And that refers to a system requirement, which is highlighted here, ESR 78. I'll talk a bit more about requirements in a minute. The topic then continues on to describe the level 2 no signals railway and whether the information is applicable to that. And it describes what the various users of the system would expect to see. And that's principally going to be the driver. So it includes often DMI indications, such as here, and it will describe what the driver is expected to see, to do, and how they're expected to react. Similarly, where the signaller is involved, there'll be information about the signaller's tasks. That then leads us on to talk about requirements, and the requirements are listed in the text as in square brackets as shown here. So as the text describes a need or something that has to happen, then the requirement is listed. There are three principal types of requirements arising from the reference design. The ESR is a high-level system requirement, basically a statement of objective. The ETCS requirements refer to the trackside subsystem, that is the RBC and the underpinning interlocking, and that defines their behaviors. And it can also include tasks that need to be done by the design authority in order to implement ETCS. And then we have EOPSS, the operational requirements, which is principally around the requirements for training of drivers and signallers, the requirement to have procedures, and for rules in things like the rulebook. Moving on, each option puts it in context with other topics, so it lists all the other topics which may be relevant to the option that maybe give extra information. For each of the options or variants, it is then provision of design guidance. This helps the person configuring the ETCS trackside particularly to understand what configuration options need to be applied, what risk assessments or other assessments need to be undertaken. So there is information, and again, this links to requirements, principally E-track SS requirements. Now we've talked about level 2 without signals. What about if we had level 2 with signals? So there is for each of the variants or options, it goes on to include sections looking at level 2 with signals. It gives a description of the differences for the process, the design rules, etc. Having completed all of the options and variant descriptions, then we move on to a section within the topic where the requirements that are referred to or generated from the topic are listed. The requirement is in a green box. Each then has a status indicating whether it is a normative, a, a requirement that is expected always to be met, a requirement relating to the product, and you'll find that requirements relating to generic product, which means that the RBC primarily needs to be capable of the functionality, even though for an individual project it may not be called up. There is also potentially desirable or preferred requirements. Each requirement also has got a rationale and some guidance, and then it lists which of the various topics call up that requirement. We've tried to use the same sort of structure for all the topics. It doesn't always work perfectly, but we have done our best. The requirements were all entered into doors and have then been extracted back for inclusion within the relevant topics. And having generated the requirements from the topics initially, there was quite a large exercise to look through all of the requirements, to look for consistency, to look for duplicates in order to eliminate them, to look for contradictions, and to seek to look for gaps. And as I mentioned early on, my current works at the moment are highlighting that that process was perhaps not as thorough as it could have been, or perhaps it was actually just that when we were doing it, were not aware of all the things that were going to come out when you actually implement a project. I mean, you have to remember the reference design was written with some knowledge of projects which were ongoing, but it was more as an objective process rather than based on describing a product, which now means that when products are being offered, they sometimes can't meet the requirements, or they raise questions that need to be answered about the interpretation of both the reference design and the requirements. A lot of work on the requirements went into making them singular so that they didn't have multiple options or multiple solutions within each requirement. So it would say that something shall happen if something is satisfied, or possibly if one or another condition is satisfied. What it didn't have was if this, then do this, and if not, do that. The requirements are trying to be singular. So I hope that's a useful introduction. It probably doesn't make much sense just at the moment, but hopefully when we move on next time to look at a topic in detail, and it will probably be topic A, why not start at the beginning of the alphabet? Then hopefully that structure will help you.